Good morning, and welcome to University Unitarian Church. I am the Reverend Deborah Raible, a minister affiliated here at University Unitarian Church. I am a community minister whose ministry is pastoral counseling and have been part of this congregation since I was born. I join you here in and from the chapel this morning, along with our soloist Ian Loney, our pianist Dwight Beckmeyer, as well as Nick Barnard and Byron Christed are on the tech team. And next week, our senior minister John Luopa will return to this pulpit from the winds of summer, among which John has hopefully found some rest and renewal. Our additional announcements this morning are in alignment with recent Washington State expansion of indoor masking requirements. UUC is asking the congregation to put on masks now and continue wearing them while in the church building. Along with this, UUC has taken up the recommendations of public health authorities, music professionals, and the Unitarian Universalist Association in suspending indoor congregational singing until further notice. This is a very difficult decision, and we thank you for your commitment to join this congregation in doing everything we can to support the public health. Please see the church website and Friday's emailed newsletter, The Gateway, for more information about changing protocols at UUC to help safeguard everyone's health at this time, as well as current plans for Homecoming Sunday, September 12th. The UUC bookstore is open after the service today and every Sunday. Please stop by for a quick browse and to say hello to Cindy Fuller, our volunteer bookstore manager. We are looking for more UUC members and friends to join our Sunday welcoming teams, so please contact the church office or find the UUC Connect serving link for more information. Also, we also welcome you to enjoy coffee and conversation immediately following the service today outside the upper and lower entrances to the church, with seating in the memorial garden and the lower plaza next to the parking lot. And if you wish to greet me on your way out, I will be standing outside the front doors, and I ask you to keep your mask on until after you have greeted me, if that's what you're choosing to do. It is so good to be here in the church and to be with you where you are. And now let us continue our worship together with our prelude. I call us to worship with these adapted words of the Reverend Richard S. Gilbert. We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit seeking retreat and rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation of joyousness. We bid you welcome, who are seekers of a new faith, who come to explore and to learn. We bid you welcome, who enter this hall as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. And now for our doxology, I invite those of us here in the chapel not to sing, but silently mouth the words in time to the music. And for those of us worshiping live stream, to sing aloud and so join all together in our doxology with the words provided on the screen. Your choice to sit or stand wherever you are. Especially for those of you worshiping via live stream, please note that at the end of my spoken prayer, there will be a lengthy communal silence for adding the intentions of our own hearts and minds, and thus your screen is not frozen. And so hopefully there will be no consternation caused like last summer. Let us join in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life and love, let our minds, bodies, and spirits be at rest in this moment. Let us come back to ourselves and become wholly present to ourselves in this shared space, surrounded by beloved community. Let us be attentive to the essence of existence that flows through us and all living beings. We give thanks for the chance moments in life when our attention is arrested by beauty, and we pause in that time out of time of awe and receive a hint of at one-ment with all that is. Recalling again love, eternal and ever-present, let us fill our hearts with love toward ourselves and towards all living companions. May there be the establishment of abundance rather than scarcity in our hearts, with gratitude and generosity, with attentiveness to that of which we are all a part. Let us ever carry forward the legacy of love and hospitality we have received in this church, and ensure there is a place of belonging for those who come next and would share our vision. Let love continue long. In silence, let us turn now to meditations of our own hearts and minds. Amen. And now for our offering. Before enjoying our offertory music, an invitation to please support this, our beloved community of memory and hope, UUC, by making a donation via either a text, for which info will appear on the screen once the music starts, or placing your offering in the collection plates at the back of the chapel when you exit the service today. And as we do each Sunday, let us now say together our words of offering written on our hearts and/or appearing on the screen. This church is a community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. When we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm our lives within it. And now for our first hymn, I once again ask those of us here in the chapel not to sing, but do silently mouth the words in time to the music. And for those of us worshiping via live stream, to sing aloud, and so join all together in hymn number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire, via the words provided on the screen. And again, your choice to sit or stand wherever you are.
Though I may speak
Come, Spirit, come. Our spirits long to be made whole. Do you resonate with this longing? Are you perhaps like me, having that sense of being less than fully inspirited? Maybe clutching at and trying to hang on to the glories of this summer, in spite of not only the regular demands of life, but also the much too hot days, forest fire smoke, weirdly hoping for some rain, please, trauma from what we thought was the worst of COVID, and now horrors of the Delta variant running rampant, plus a return to mask wearing in indoor and some outdoor public places, and no singing in church. The attempt to end one long war in Afghanistan, with continuing loss of life there, plus elsewhere, from any of the other many human and or natural caused disasters in the world beyond, whatever is our particular microcosm. As the host of the regular news program I watch says, in an acknowledging and thus somehow comforting way, on days that necessitate a litany of woeful matters, it's a lot. Thus, my own recent experiences of spirit have set me to wondering how it might be and could be with all our spirits, beloveds. And this has led to some thoughts I'd like to share with you today in this, our shared community of memory and hope. For UUC is ever a house of hope. So first, some words about the word spirit. You may have noticed, if reading the words of our first hymn, that the spirit asked to come was spirit with a capital S. Just like in my own written or spontaneous prayers that nearly always begin, as I did today, with spirit of life and love, I capitalize the S plus both L's. And I am not the first, nor alone among my colleagues or other folks to denote spirit of life and love thusly. Indeed, this is an oft-chosen way, using the convention of capitalizing proper names for some of us to name that ineffable sense of that which is greater than ourselves, of which we are all a part, also known by countless other names, with or without capitalization. Like this from our Unitarian Universalist Association principles, where it is written in the front of our hymnals in lowercase, but I have also seen capitalized, the interdependent web of all existence. And the of which we are all a part segment following that naming, of course, brings us to we humans, spirits, with a lowercase s, again as found in the words to our hymn. Little sparks of the spirit of life and love in which we move and have our being. The idea of spirit in both its capital and or lowercase forms may not exactly appeal to you, but I believe a sense of spirit does exist for most of us in this, our religious community, because it is in and comes first in the intent of our UUC mission, adopted 10 years ago with a unanimous vote, which thus far has been the only unanimous vote I, plus I believe UUC, at any other time, have ever experienced. Indeed, there were many sore amazed at such wholeness of spirit that day. Our UUC mission says, and if you know it by heart, feel free to join me in saying, UUC is a community which covenants to awaken spirit, nurture hope, and inspire action. And so we are a home to spirit, hope, plus action. Something which is being particularly generative for my awareness of spirit and its vicissitudes is a small group of us here in the church who have been meeting twice a month this summer since the reopening of the church building. This group has its origins in both what was the UUC Mission and Vision Implementation Team focused on spiritual growth and the leadership team here at UUC for UU Wellspring, which, as you may or may not know, is a program in spiritual deepening created specifically for Unitarian Universalists that UUC has been offering since being selected for its national pilot in 2010. All of us in the group have been members of one or both of these origin teams, are UU Wellspring alums, and have continuing spiritual practices. We have no formal name or set duration, are convened by our Director of Ministries, Janine Larson, and have been considering future plans for UU Wellspring and how to perhaps offer other spiritual practice and spiritual deepening programs to the congregation as well. From this, we have been spiritedly coming up with ideas, winnowing, then by design, making sure they are substantive yet sustainable, and honing them into actual offerings written on the whiteboard by season. This was all going restoratively and swimmingly until our meeting a little over 2 weeks ago. That meeting began, as it does each time we meet, with our practice that in and of itself makes the meeting completely worthwhile, of a chalice lighting and fertile reading, followed by an extended period of silent reflection and simply breathing. And then we each briefly, yet deeply, share how we are, really how it is with our spirits. Quite different from the usual format of brief check-in we are socialized to follow in our culture. I'm fill in the blank, fine, really busy, good, and then a quick listing of what you've been up to. What quickly became clear at our gathering that day was we were all struggling, not only with the return of forest fire smoke, but also the overwhelming specter of COVID, again bringing life to a reduced state in the form of the obviously worsening spread of the Delta variant. As a follow-on to the chalice reading, I think it was, we each ended up choosing our own particular descriptor word for how things were feeling when it was our time to speak. And mine was apocalyptic. What also felt really hard when it then oozed into what had been intended as a time for reporting progress and next steps needed for bringing these offerings for spiritual deepening to fruition, was the realization that the nature of the programs we had come up with were not created for or with another time of shutdown and re-traumatization in mind. We had, in fact, quite intentionally created them with restoration of spirit after the trials of COVID firmly in mind, for we were hopeful. It felt like a shipwreck, but we weren't dead yet. And so, supporting each other, we swam together for shore and looked for what we could salvage. For one thing COVID certainly has been a lesson in is learning how to pivot if you can. And salvage we did, with compassion for ourselves, each other, and this congregation we love. Along with someone quoting the saying, "The opposite of hope is not despair, but the ability to wonder." Thusly, by the end of the meeting, we had figured out what could still possibly be rejiggered and what needed to be dropped and what could be postponed. There was even smiles and a bit of laughter along the way. It was remarked upon as we were ready to close the meeting that our spirits had ended in such a better place than where they began, and gratitude for and to one another was devoutly expressed. And so we have continued on in our work, guided by our entire UUC mission towards awakening, encouraging, sustaining spirit to, as best and sustainably as we can, make sure that amidst all the nurtured hope and inspired doing all of us in this community do via UUC, the well of all of our spirits is ever being refilled. By the way, it was at this point in the actual writing of this sermon, when it was late at night and past time to stop, that I did my usual falling into wondering if this sermon was going to be any good at all. But wouldn't you know, come, Spirit, come. First thing when I woke up in the morning, I was re-inspirited by a text exchange started by a colleague and dear friend who found their call to ministry in this church community, and to whom I confessed what stage in sermon writing I was in. And swift and sure came the short and sweet reply, "It will be wonderful." Zap! I was lovingly restored once again by a beloved of this community, and on my way to the stage of, "That'll preach," as ministers are wont to say. The well-known moniker for both our strategic plan and our building campaign was not for ourselves alone. Well, our working group focused on spirit is clear that our vision will most certainly be carried out not by ourselves alone, which leads me to some of my thoughts on how we might all better be part of giving and receiving zaps of spirit, as it were. An image came to me, which I offer for your consideration, of concentric circles, where oneself is in the center circle, and the circle around that contains your dearest beloveds. In the next ring is the UUC community. Around that is the wider community, which is then contained, as we all are, in the natural world. And then finally, that which surrounds it all, in which we move and have our being, spirit ever, of life and love. And there are possible questions I thought of related to each circle for potential use in attending to how oneself and one's own spirit are in relationship to each other, and all the circles on some sort of routine timing. Here are mine, and you'll perhaps come up with your own. I invite you to let them wash over you, come back to them if it sparks something for you. Starting with oneself in the center. How is it with my spirit, really? How is it feeling? Surrounded by, connected to the spirit of life and love? What am I thinking about the state of my spirit? Have I been avoiding or being unaware of my spirit? Do I want to actively do something on behalf of my spirit? Need to plan how to do it? What question do I have for my spirit? Or moving on to dearest beloveds, how are the spirits of those I love most? Have I asked them? Are there ways I could attend to their spirits that would be welcome? Ways I would like them to attend to mine? Are there things I could do together with particular beloveds that would be mutually helpful to our spirits and maybe even other spirits in the process? That could encourage our connection to the spirit of life and love? The next circle is the one you are in right now, the UUC community. How is my spirit being fed by UUC? How am I contributing to UUC from my spirit? Are there invitations to help in encouraging spirit at UUC I would like to take up? Can I sincerely ask others how it is with their spirit and also truly listen if they are ready and willing to answer. Please, and I do mean please, in the name of the Spirit of life and love, do consider this last question before any choice to take action on it after the service, in coffee hour, or elsewhere, and at all times going forward. Also, remember to lovingly respect the degree to which people are willing to answer, or if someone just doesn't want to answer. The intention is for it to be a spiritual, not a casual act. If you ask someone, "How is it with your spirit?" That question again is, can I sincerely ask others how it is with their spirit, and also truly listen if they are ready and willing to answer? In relation to the ring of wider community, how am I, or could I, be contributing to wider community from my spirit? What is on offer in the wider community that could nourish my spirit? As for the natural world all around us, you might ask, does my spirit need to get outside more? What is it that could, would, or does feed my spirit in the natural world? How is my spirit helping me live with care for the natural world? Finally, all-encompassing spirit. Do I feel spirit around and within me? How am I, or could I, be inviting spirit, or make myself more available to spirit? These are all reflection questions, but to actually answer them is active, not only because you have to actually do the reflecting, but because your answers are likely to involve further action if you ask them in the first place. And spiritual deepening doesn't always take the form of sitting quietly, though it's wonderful if that's part of what works for you. My main practice is to sit for meditation and prayer, but I also walk, play the piano, take myself to commune with beautiful things like art, waterfalls, and rites of passage to connect my spirit with spirit of life and love. I also experience my spirit not only used, but also often fed when I sit with people who come to consult with me as a pastoral counselor, minister, or beloved. And that my spirit is expanded by actively engaging in working towards the beloved community. One can do active inspiriting. In an article in the Spirit section of UU World magazine from 4 summers ago, Christine Ogden wrote about her chosen response after crying herself to sleep to the election of the previous President of the United States, and said, "Hope and compassion would be my rebellion. Love would be my resistance. In a few short months, I have gotten a crash course in politics and become an activist. But I don't necessarily consider myself a political activist. Rather, I believe I am a spiritual activist. Spiritual activism is a hallmark of the Unitarian Universalist faith. We recognize that the resistance isn't just about advocating, protesting, and fighting for our rights and the rights of others. The resistance is also about connecting and tending to our own spirits so that we have the energy to keep fighting for others." Close quote. And I would add, spiritual activism definitely includes programs like Beloved Conversations offered here at UUC, which intentionally focuses on the spiritual nature of the work that is involved in seeking to embody racial justice as a spiritual practice. And the Study Action Guide for Widening the Circle of Concern, which focuses on inclusion justice as spiritual work, period. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to do so. Finally, I would like to clearly acknowledge that the movement of spirit is not always easy or sure. One spirit can get stuck, depleted, withered. Perhaps you experienced some of that during the long pre-inoculation and isolating if you could phase of COVID. Perhaps you are still experiencing the effects of it. But on the plus side, we are here today and alive. And this means the possibility for re-inspiriting continues. Meanwhile, at the risk of ending on a down note and being experienced as the antithesis of inspiriting, my pastoral heart and spirit would offer counsel. The Delta variant is already leading to some limited lockdowns again in facilities in the area, and if it leads to wider shutdowns, please resist becoming isolated by, once again, and even more robustly if you can, using the ways you can safely connect with others. Start now, even, while you perhaps have more wherewithal for it. Make plans with your beloveds for staying connected. Really intentionally start filling up your emotional and spiritual coffers with in-person visits, activities. Invest in your connection to UUC or your local congregation if you are visiting with us for just today, and its people who are your people. Go ahead and make the effort to volunteer here and be of service now. The good news to practicing connecting now is there's really no downside, and it offers inspiriting for you and those you're with. Go ahead, if you haven't already, and make it a spiritual practice for inspiriting. I close with these words by the Reverend Seeley Kadovich. We are called to lives of service by a great love, capital L, in which we live and move and have our being. And however we might name it, it is a love that holds us all covers us all like a sweet dust. Amen, and may it be so. And now, sitting or standing, and with the words provided on the screen for our last hymn, I invite those of us here in the chapel to not sing, but silently mouth the words in time to the music, and for those of us worshiping via live stream to boldly sing aloud, and thus, so, all of us together in harmony of spirit, hymn number 92, Mysterious Presence, Source of All. And now in our going, may the Spirit of life and love bless us and keep us. May the light of the Spirit shine upon us and elicit life from within us and bring us love. For these are the days we are given. Let us rejoice, hope, and be glad in them. Amen.
Erhältest Fleisch und Blut, das Gott selbst an sich nimmt, dem schon hier auf Erden ein himmlisch Heil bestimmt, des höchsten Kind zu werden. Erhältest Fleisch und Blut. Eingeheiligt geheiligt das Gemüter. Sieht und schmecke Gottes Güter, sieht und schmecke Gottes Güter. Ein heiliges Gemüter, sieht und schmecke Gottes Güter. Ein geheiligtes 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 Gemüter, sieht und schmecke Gottes Güter. Rühmet, singet, stirbt die Seiten Gottes Güter auszubreiten. Gottes Güter auszubreiten. Gottes Güter auszubreiten. Rühmet, singet, stirbt die Seiten. Stirbt die Seiten. Rühmet, singet, stimmt die Seiten Gottes Güter auszubreiten.